Assalamualaikum. Hello learners, you are welcome to my biology class. Our today's topic is fertilization. In my previous class, you have learned how male and female gametes are formed. Now we will learn fertilization. Fertilization basically the sexual union of motile male gamete with comparatively bigger non-motile female gamete is called fertilization. Motile male gamete, here motile male gamete means moving male gamete. Motile, that means male gamete moves, and non-motile, non-moving female gamete does not move. The sexual union of motile male gamete with comparatively bigger male gamete, basically smaller in size, female gamete is larger in size, that's why comparatively bigger non-motile female gamete is called fertilization. Students, you know here pollen grain germinate, and inside the pollen grain male gametes are formed, and pollen grain and transfer of, you also know, transfer of pollen grain from this anther to stigma is called pollination. Here it is pollination. Pollination is the precondition of fertilization. That means if fertilization occurred, then the precondition of fertilization will be pollination. That means before fertilization, pollination must. So by the process of pollination, pollen grain transfer from anther to stigma, and this pollen grain, inside the pollen grain, pollen tube is formed, and inside the pollen tube male gamete is formed. This pollen tube, basically when this pollen grain falls on the stigma, this part is known as stigma. When pollen grain falls on the stigma, this pollen grain, the pollen tube, basically pollen tube of pollen grain penetrates style. This part is known as style. Stigma, style, ovary. Style, the pollen tube penetrates style. This pollen tube penetrates style and reaches to the micropyle of ovule, and these are two male gametes, and inside the ovule, by the process of, that means male gamete, female gamete have already produced, the megasporogenesis. This is egg, synergid cell, secondary nuclei, antipodal cell. Look, inside the ovule, it happens by the process of megasporogenesis. Egg, synergid cell, antipodal cell, secondary nuclei. When this pollen tube reaches near to the micropyle, the end of the pollen tube burst. And one male gamete fuse with this egg and another male gamete fuse with the secondary nuclei. First male gamete fuse with egg and form zygote. This is the first fertilization. And second male gamete fuse with the secondary nuclei. It is second fertilization and form triploid endosperm. It's triploid 3N. So two fertilization occurs here. It is known as double fertilization. Double fertilization is the most important characteristics of flowering plant. Again, when pollen tube reaches to the micropyle, one male gamete fuse with egg and form zygote, and another male gamete fuse with secondary nuclei and form triploid endosperm. It is triple fusion also. Triple fusion. Why triple fusion? 3 cell, 3N for fused together. It is known as triple fusion. This is all about fertilization. After fertilization, formation of embryo and endosperm. Formation of embryo and endosperm occurs simultaneously. And after fertilization, zygote basically takes some rest and it starts to divide by the process of mitosis. Zygote starts to divide by the process of mitosis. This is the zygote. It divides. Zygote divides transversely. Zygote divides transversely, and this apical part basically form embryo, and this basal part. When zygote divides transversely, the upper side cell will be known as apical cell, and the basal side cell will be known as basal cell. Apical cell form embryo, and basal cell basically form suspensor of embryo. After that, the triploid endosperm, that means triploid endosperm, 2 secondary nuclei and 1 male gamete form triploid endosperm. This triploid endosperm basically provide nutrition to this triploid endosperm basically provide nutrition to the embryo. That means triploid endosperm nourish the embryo, and triploid endosperm and embryo in the ovule basically turn into seed. So we can say that ovule turn into seed, and this total ovary turn into fruit. So ovule turn into seed and ovary turn into fruit. That's all about fertilization. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.